Do you have a right to health care? And before we get into the real discussion here, let's first define health care. Contraception is not health care, so throw that out completely. I know there's a lot of pharmaceutical companies who are pushing women to say that contraception is health care. It's not health care. That's propaganda coming from the pharmaceutical companies. Okay, so what is healthcare? Healthcare concerns any type of injury that's physical, and I would even extend that to mental. So if you have some sort of traumatic injury due to somebody breaking into your house, that is, since I've had that happen to me when I was younger, very real. PTSD, that's very real. I consider that injury. Chronic issues, diseases, and what have you, that's a part of healthcare. Okay, so now that we all know at least where I'm coming from when I say healthcare, and no, I don't consider prenatal care healthcare. I don't consider that healthcare. It might have some medical aspects to it, and that's great, but I don't consider that healthcare. Now, do you have a right to health care? I have defined what a right is, or what is the exercise of a right in the past. So for definition number 2, let's define what a right is. A right is something that any reasonable person would agree is something that would sustain you personally without infringing on another human being. You have a right to eat. You eating does not infringe on another person. You have a right to drink water, right? You have a right to be hydrated. You personally sitting next to me drinking water does not infringe upon me. You have a right to breathe. That means that you sitting next to me breathing does not infringe upon me. These examples seem absurd to you, but hold on to your horses. I'm going to get to the real absurdity here that we're talking about. You do not have a right to marriage. Okay, probably lost a few people. But what's the definition of a right? It doesn't infringe on somebody else, right? To be married, first of all, is a religious term. It's not a secular term. The secular term would be something like a civil union, and everybody knows that you do not have a right to a civil union. In both cases, you have to infringe on another human being to exercise getting married or getting a civil union. Therefore, ergo, you're not married. Marriage is not a right. Okay, if marriage is not a right, then is healthcare a right? Obviously not, because for you to exercise quote unquote health care outside of doing it yourself, and I mean going to the store and buying products, tools, utensils, machines, yourself, bringing them into your house and performing the health care yourself without any input from anybody else requires the assistance, machines, electricity, structure of somebody else. That is not a right. You don't have a right to health care. Do you have a right to live? Yes, you have a right to live. What does that mean? You have a right to stand there, breathe, eat, drink water, and your very existence does not in any way impact me. That's what it means. You have a right to life. Just like the unborn child inside of a mother's womb has a right to life. And this is not a belief, this is scientific. This whole people putting together propaganda to sell you a service and saying that the exercise of that service is a right is nothing more than propaganda, and propaganda will in fact confuse you if you are weak-minded. What am I talking about? Abortion. Abortion is not a right. It's a service that people make money off of. Oh, I didn't pay for my abortion. It doesn't matter that you didn't pay for the abortion. They have set up a system where the taxpayers pay for the abortion. Somebody pays for it. It doesn't matter that you personally didn't pay for it. I have to pay for it. I'm not a woman. I don't have breasts. I don't have a vagina. But for some reason, me paying my taxes includes you getting a free abortion. That is not a right. You walking into a building that sits on land, and they have to pay taxes for that land. They have to pay taxes for that building. They have to put the power on. They have to turn the lights on. They have to hook up the machines with electricity. They have to buy the machines. They have to pay the janitor to keep the place clean. They have to pay nurses. They have to pay doctors. That is not a right. You don't have a right to murder your unborn child. That's not a right. Which brings us full circle to healthcare, as I have defined it. And no, I don't consider abortions a part of health care whatsoever. It's a service that somebody has figured out they can make money off of. And if they tell you a lie that it is a right, more power to them. It's a great marketing scheme, and you should recognize it for what it is. I am an online marketer. I recognize marketing for what it is. Have you seen the video of the black guy who goes door to door and he has a complete comedy sketch and he's selling a cleaner and he has to be the funniest guy you've ever seen, and people are begging him to come to their door to sell him their cleaners, and they'll buy 5 cleaners from him. Nastiest people on the planet would never use the cleaner because they're lazy, but they just simply want to hear his marketing pitch because he is so damn funny. He makes fun of himself. He makes fun of dirt. He makes fun of the different other companies. That is called marketing. He has marketing down to a T. I'm sure you've seen, if not, go look him up. Door-to-door salesman, black guy selling cleaner. I'm sure you'll find him. Marketing, that's what marketing is. I do marketing daily, and I've been doing it now since 2000 and, well, I've been doing it all my life, but for myself personally, I've been doing it since 2007. Marketing. Do you think perchance I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about marketing? I say this when I talk about the church. That the church is a big, huge marketing scheme. It has internal marketing. What's the internal marketing of church? You have to believe in Jesus. If not, bad things will happen. And in fact, we are going to market our religion to other people to ensure the survivability of this religion. Now, do you think if there was an all-powerful being who needed you to worship him, that you could withstand not worshiping him? Let me put that another way. If I wanted you to watch my videos and I were all-powerful, do you think you could walk anywhere in your life and not see my videos? I would have it on your car windshield. I would have it on buildings. I would have it as you pass by a storefront and there was a TV there. I would have it on your watch. I would have it in your bathroom. I would have it on the mirror of your medicine cabinet. I would have it on your clock radio face. Do you think you could avoid seeing my videos? No, you can't. You wouldn't be able to. What does that have to do? The church is marketing. There's not an all-powerful being that's marketing. There's a church marketing a specific religion. And the ultimate marketing is, if you don't believe in this religion, you're going to go to hell, and hell is bad. So first of all, we have to teach you about hell and make sure you fear hell. So here we go. If you don't believe in this religion, you're going to go to hell. Hell is bad. Ergo, you better believe in this religion. And not only that, everybody on the planet should believe in this religion. Otherwise, they're all going to go to hell. That is marketing. I hate to tell you this, and I'm sure it sounds crude to you, and I'm sure all of you believers are going to say, oh, no, that's not. It's marketing. Somebody lying to you and saying that healthcare is a right is trying to sell you something. Healthcare is obviously not a right. Let's go back to the medieval period. The medieval period was after the Roman Empire fell, and supposedly in Europe, this only impacted Europe, it didn't impact anywhere else in the entire world. Europe fell into complete and utter darkness. Nobody could read, including royalty. Nobody could learn. Now, as a side note, the African Moors came into Europe and started teaching people how to read, how to do science, and so forth and so on anyway, right? And the rulers made sure that they kept that secret, and now this is why we have all these secret societies, because they're a continuation of that time period. Now, let's get back to the medieval period. Nobody could read, except for a few people. The people in the church could read, and there were wizards. This is where we even get the term. These are wizards, ergo wise men. They didn't throw fireballs or none of that crap, right? Another term they used were physicians. These were people who looked after the health of the royal family, or the nobility, or the aristocracy. And those three things mean something different. There's the king that sits in the palace, there's the relatives of the king, and then there's all the people under the king who lived in the countryside somewhere in a castle somewhere all by themselves. That's the aristocracy, right? Now the physicians would take care of them. Now, do you have a right as a peasant to tell the physician to come to your house and take care of you? No, you didn't have that right. This is what we're talking about. Because the physician no longer sits in a tower by himself in the royal palace, and because we're so close to the physician, we think that we should have the same opportunities as the royal family, when in fact we don't. Let me get to the quotes from Bernie Sanders versus Senator Rand Paul. So Senator Bernie Sanders, quote unquote independent of Vermont, he's termed as independent, but he's running on the Democratic ticket. I don't know why. Quote, I believe that healthcare is a right, regardless of income. Notice how he puts that right up front, regardless of income. Let's break this down. This guy is saying everybody should have a right to enforce people to take care of them. Physicians back in the day cost gold, not silver, gold. So in order for you to retain a wizard back in the day, you had to pay exorbitant amounts. And only a very few people could afford a physician. This is a guy who has dedicated his life. He apprenticed to some other wizard. That wizard taught him everything he knows. They spent their time researching stuff, trying to expand stuff. They would sit and write books which would take their entire life to accomplish. They cost gold to retain. And not only that, they cost gold to house them. Gold. We're talking about precious metal. When people didn't have enough to eat, these people, wizards, cost gold to retain. And Bernie Sanders says, I believe that healthcare is a right regardless of income. Okay. That every American has the right to the best quality healthcare that the system can offer. What system is he talking about? Is there a national system of healthcare? No, there's not. Oh, I know you think Obamacare is a national system. Heck, it's not. It's a framework for insurance. That's all it is. That's all it ever was. That's all it pretended to be. It actually does not bring you healthcare. When you go to sign up for quote unquote Obamacare, you're signing up for insurance, right? So what system of healthcare is he talking about? And when he says every American has the right to the best quality, do you think that the people in the Ozarks with 3 teeth in the entire family has a right to demand Saks Fifth Avenue doctors come and visit them, bringing their tea and biscuits and white linen medical gear? We're talking about the best quality. He said the best quality. Is that what you expect? Is that reality? Absolutely not. Let's get to what Senator Rand Paul says. He puts it into perspective. With regard to the idea of whether or not you have a right to health care, you have to realize what that implies. I already told you what a right is, right? I'm a physician. That means you have a right to come to my house and conscript me. What does conscript mean? Back in the day, when the king said, okay, Royal Navy, I need you go to that island and capture that island. I want you to build 7 ships, 7 galleons. We'll pretend that I know what a galleon is, right? We'll pretend that galleon for me means a big, huge, giant ship with 50 guns on it. 2 decks of guns on each side. And by guns, I mean cannons. So for them to, first of all, they could build a ship, right? Because they had shipbuilders. And the king paid for that. Now they have to go and find enough people. All of the outlooks and all of the navigation, they had to find all of those people. I said there was 50 guns on each side. That literally means they needed below decks. That's not talking about all of the people above deck, right? In order to do this, nobody volunteered to do that because, first of all, being on a ship on the ocean was dangerous all by itself because we're not talking about they had Titanic-like ships back then. We're talking about wood floating on water. And Mother Nature had all sorts of nice little storms and stuff that they made all sorts of myths about. Oh, the sea creatures will come and take you under, all, right? To do this then, since they didn't have volunteers, they would go literally beat people over the head, knock them out, drag them on board, shackle them onto the ship, and they would wake up and be 3 days already at sea. That's conscription. Literally, it means kidnapping people. So, let's put this back into what he's talking about here. I'm a physician. That means you have a right to come to my house and conscript me. It means you believe in slavery. It means you're going to enslave not only me, but the janitor at my hospital, the assistants, the nurses. There's an implied threat of force. Do you have a right to beat down my door with the police, escort me away, and force me to take care of you? That's ultimately what the right of free healthcare would be. What did I say a right is? A right means that you can do something without impacting somebody else. And he's saying here, the only way that you can exercise your right of free, quote unquote, healthcare, or your right of healthcare, let's not even talk about free, just your right of healthcare, means that the state would have to enforce it. And how does the state enforce things? They have a police. And the police come and knocks down the door and hauls you away to force you to do whatever the state wants. And that means that the police are going to pull out their guns and potentially shoot you to force you to do something. What do they do if they want to force somebody out of business? They show up with the agency and with the police and they say, you're closed. Force. The state is force. So Bernie Sanders saying that you have a right to health care means that you have a right to call the police and says, Rand Paul isn't operating on me, go get him. That's what a right would mean for healthcare. Same thing when I say you don't have a right to marriage. You don't have a right to go to the Pope with armed guards and say, you will perform my wedding, oh man, or else. You don't have a right to marriage. You don't have a right to murder your unborn child. Why? Because the child has a right to live. And his right to live is unquestionable. I don't believe in abortion for anybody. I don't care if you were raped. I don't care if you were beaten. I don't care if you were injected. I don't care if you were held down by monkeys and artificially inseminated. I don't care. You would be very shocked at the people who come out of horrible situations like rape, incest, what have you, right? Kings, right? You all respect kings, right? Sometimes you even worship kings. Sometimes you learn about kings and they're spoken of in hushed tones. What if I told you that some of these fantastic great kings who were the best on the planet were the result of an incestuous rape? You don't have a right to murder your unborn child. You don't have a right to force a doctor to perform healthcare on you. You don't have a right, and since Bernie Sanders is talking about a system, you don't have a right to force an insurance company to pay for your healthcare. Do any of you actually think that you have a right to have an insurance company pay for your healthcare? Because that's exactly what we're talking about. Could you call 911 and says, hey, Blue Cross Blue Shield is not paying for my healthcare. Bernie Sanders says I have a right to healthcare. What would the police say? What would the operators say? They would come and arrest you, would they not? This is very concerning to me, that people would believe in some malarkey like this. And then the marketing, there goes that word again, the propaganda is saying, look at all of these other companies. They have socialized medicine. And then when you actually look, let's say you're like me and you actually do some research on your own, and you find that they are bankrupt. And I don't mean just a little bit. I mean to trillions of dollars, pounds, euros, bankrupt. You already know that the United States is bankrupt, right? And has been bankrupt. And we're talking about a guy who's saying that, oh no, we don't need to just be bankrupt. We need to take this to a whole nother level of bankrupt. We got fiat money. Let's take this to a whole nother level of fiat money. And this is just on healthcare. I'm gonna go over step by step the libertarian view of all of the Bernie Sanders promises. Thank you for watching the Shikama Live Show.